Hi everyone, thank you for tuning into this episode of the Spook Notes podcast, where we get academic about everything that goes bump in the night. My name is Marlayna.
And I'm Connor.
And on this episode, we will be talking about the best of 2019 horror movies. That was shitty.
That was very awkward.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll be talking about our favorite horror movies of 2019. I always like to say favorite and not best, because best would signify that these are the best made movies, but favorite can just mean favorite, like they don't necessarily mean best.
No, it means the best in my books.
Well, yeah, but that means favorite.
No, it is the best.
Okay, whatever. These are our favorite horror movies of 2019. Just like we did last year, we're going to each give our top 5. We're going to count them down, talk about them a little bit, and yeah.
And upon creating this top 5 list, we actually had to, sit down and figure out what the hell we actually watched this year. Yeah, and upon reviewing this list, I was like, holy smokes, we watch a lot of movies.
Well, going off that, I mean, when you look back at that list of movies we saw in 2019, what did you think of the year in general? I mean, you think it was a good year? I
thought it was very mixed.
That's what I was going to say, too.
Without saying too much and giving too much away too soon, like, there definitely was good movies, but there was, let me put it to you this way, there was movies that I literally was like, what? What was that about?
I was going to say the same thing. Like, I thought this year was a year of a lot of high highs and a lot of low lows. Like, my top 3 on my list for this year are, like, top 3. Like, I feel like they could be, like, up there with best movies of the decade. They were really strong this year. But I feel like there was also some movies that I really, really didn't like. And I was also disappointed by a lot of movies this year. Like, movies that I was looking forward to that I was really disappointed by.
You know what we could do after we give our, like, top 5? We could just say, like,
some movies we didn't like?
Yeah. Okay.
Because there's 2 that spring to mind that not necessarily are, like, super, super bad movies, but just movies I was very disappointed by.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, overall, I would say that this was a solid year. I thought that, it was similar in some ways to last year, but different in others, and I thought that last year was a very unique year, and that this year was, I don't know, it was just, a lot of big movies came out this year, a few smaller ones. Yeah, I think that every year is different, and this year I think just had.
I feel like this year kind of followed a theme of, like, reviving movies from the past.
A little bit.
Like, okay, obviously we're not getting into it right now, but I'm just bringing up movies such as, like, Pet Sematary, It, Child's Play. Those are the kind of movies that were just, like, being revived from movies that came out, in the 80s and 90s, right? Mm-hmm. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
All right. Yeah. Well, that's the podcast.
Get into
Subscribe to us.
We might as well just get into it because I feel like we're just spinning
rambling.
Our wheels.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna each. So Marlena's gonna give her number 5, then I'm gonna give my number 5. She's gonna give her number 4. I'm gonna give my number 4, and we'll talk about them. So.
Yep.
You want to start us, Marlayna, off?
Sure.
So, Marlayna.
Yes.
What was your...
and sorry, before we go into this, we also included TV shows.
Yes.
We should definitely say that because last year, Connor was an asshole and did not tell me that we were including TV shows.
I told you.
Thus, I wasn't able to put The Haunting of Hill House on my list, and that was a absolute banger. So, yeah.
So this is horror movies and TV shows.
Horror media.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just that, that's out of the way. My number 5 pick was the newest season of Castle Rock. Now, I didn't watch the first season of Castle Rock because I don't know what was going on with me. I was just being stupid and whatever. I was like, no, I'm not going to watch it. And Connor actually really introduced me to it. And thank God, because the last season of Castle Rock was really good. So good that it made it on my top 5 list of the year. I don't know. I've started really getting into Stephen King. I've been reading a lot more, and it's really cool just to see like the characters that you read about, and even see in like movies and stuff, just being brought into a different light. Yeah, and recently I actually just finished reading the book Misery, and I've also seen the movie with Kathy Bates and oh my god, what's the other guy's name? Paul Sheldon.
The actor?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Cool. Kathy Bates and Paul Sheldon. That movie. Yeah. So it was really cool just to see, like, Annie Wilkes being portrayed in a different light, which I thought the actress did an amazing job. Now, I don't know what her name is. I just know she plays Janice in Mean Girls. So Janice did a great job. Yeah. I don't know. That was my top 5 pick of the year. I thought it was really cool. So.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that, for me, I liked the Annie Wilkes part of that season, like that half of it, that storyline, and I felt like it would have been better if it was just that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really like so much the whole, like, people from the 1600s coming back and taking over people's bodies and starting an invasion storyline. That didn't really resonate with me too much. I thought, like, my favorite episode was the episode where they revealed that this season was indeed connected to the first season, and that Bill Skarsgård was a character that we're going to probably see again and again.
Mm-hmm.
So that was what I liked about it. But yeah, for me, I think just like the first season, it was mixed for me, and I thought that some storylines there were better than others.
Well, yeah, like, if I could pick a storyline in the season, I definitely would give it to Annie Wilkes. Just because I haven't read as much, Stephen King as you have. Like, obviously, I get the connection with, Jerusalem's Lot, like vampires and stuff.
But it's not really.
No, it's
Yeah.
not. But I think it was kind of like giving a little bit of light to that because they are in coffins. Like, you associate.
Yeah, thematic connection. But
yeah.
I mean, really, the only, like, real books that this is attached to is really just Misery. And that's pretty much it. I mean, there's Ace Merrill and Pop Merrill that are also in it, and they're from, like,
Stand By Me.
Stand By Me, Needful Things, a few others. Pop Merrill's from The Sundog, which is a novella.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, really, there's not too much other connection. I mean, it kind of stands on its own, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't know. I would just say, like, overall, it's like, I thought the season was pretty solid just because, like, I feel like Annie Wilkes, like, her character really tied it together. Like, the acting was just outstanding. And without giving, any spoilers away, just because if you haven't seen the end of Castle Rock, the last 10 minutes really, really tied it together for me. And I think that's what put it on this list for me because, I don't know, it's just, the last 10 minutes of the season just was like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, that's for me anyways. But, some people could have mixed opinions. But I thought it was pretty solid. So I'm definitely very interested in, well, I would like to watch the first season. I keep saying that. I'm going to keep putting it off. But I'll eventually watch it. And I'm really interested to see what the third season of Castle Rock's going to be about. Mm-hmm. Simply because, I've been reading a lot more and I know a lot more things now. So... yeah.
It's always interesting to see what they're going to do next and what kind of characters they're going to tackle.
Yeah. All right. What was your number 5 pick?
Well, good pick, Marlayna.
Thank you.
I like it.
Thank you.
Okay. My number 5 for 2019 was 3 from Hell.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I was thinking back to this year and I was thinking about what are the movies that I remember seeing the most that have stuck with me and stuff. And 3 from Hell was definitely that. One, because of the experience we had going to see it, we literally drove to a different country to see this movie.
Yeah.
And we were in the nicest movie theater we've ever been in. And we got the exclusive poster. We got our poster from that movie signed by Bill Moseley and Dee Wallace, who were both in the movie. So I think just that whole experience this year is really, like, when I think back to parts of 2019, I'm like, oh yeah, that was the year we saw 3 from Hell.
Which was also very exclusive to see. Like, if you actually saw this movie in theaters, I think they were only playing it for, what, like 3 days or something?
Yeah, I think something like that.
3
or 4 days.
Yeah, and it was only in select theaters in the States. So
we had to drive down to Buffalo.
Yeah, it was really funny when we were crossing the border because the guard was like, "Oh, what brings you to the United States of America?" And we're like, "We're seeing a movie," and he's like, actually?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we're that weird." And he's like, "Okay, bring her on through." So no, it was cool. Like, can I talk about it? Like, I don't.
Sure. I mean,
okay.
no, sure. I mean, I was just gonna say, like, for the movie itself, and we talked about this. I talked about this in our first impressions, but it was the first Rob Zombie movie I've seen in a long time that I really, really liked because I thought that it was his best movie since The Devil's Rejects.
Yeah.
And The Devil's Rejects is my favorite of his movies, but this is absolutely number 2.
Yeah.
And I think that it just was an awesome conclusion to the story of these characters and stuff. And I thought that just seeing them again on the big screen and seeing them, you can tell that these are characters that Rob Zombie really loves writing and directing. And it's really just special to see these characters because even though what I think is so unique about them in all of cinema is that I feel like there's a lot of anti-heroes in movies nowadays. They like to put in anti-heroes, but these guys are truly bad people, but we still love them. Yeah. And I think that's really cool. And I just thought like the movie was really, really well done. It was a quality film. It was funny, but it was also like gross at times, and it was very, very Rob Zombie style. And I just think it's also very memorable in the sense that you look back in the movie and it's like, oh, like there's specific scenes I remember that I really liked, like when Baby was in the prison, and as well as there's whole parts that you like I really like the ending when they're all in Mexico, and I think it really is a unique aesthetic that he brings. So I mean, I just really, really enjoyed 3 from Hell.
Also, I really like it for the fact that we saw Sid Haig for the last time, like, perform.
Yeah.
And because I'm pretty sure it was, like a few weeks after?
Yeah, I think it was even less than that. I think it was only, like, maybe 2 weeks after.
Yeah, and, like, he passed away, and I was like, holy shit, like, wow.
And that was definitely a big event in the horror community this year. So to have that movie kind of as a companion to that and kind of, like, as a memoriam to Sid, I think that was pretty special.
Well, yeah, and also, like, Rob Zombie was very, like, apprehensive about having, Sid Haig really even be in this movie because he was experiencing a lot of, like, health problems. And I think, if I remember correctly, like, Sid Haig just, like, wanted to, like, be in this movie and, like, wanted to give one good final go at it. And, like, the scene where he's, like, talking, like, in the jail, like, you can see, like, this man is an actor. Like, he's a good actor. Especially, like, you can see it through his eyes and, like, his facial movements. And I don't know. I really appreciate that. And I thought, like, that was, a good way to finally, to represent him in his last, like, work.
And I also liked it because it was kind of, like, a little bit of, like, taking the old and remembering the old and having reverence for it and also bringing in the new because the Richard Brake, who is, like, the third member of the 3 from Hell, I also think did a really, really great job.
No, honestly, like, he did an excellent job. And this was, like, aside from, oh my god, what's the other movie, 31?
Mm-hmm.
That was, like, the first time I've ever, like, well, not first time, but I guess second time really seen him act. Like, I know he's in Game of Thrones, but, like, he doesn't say anything, so it was just cool to see him, like, be all, like, edgy and stuff, and, like, badass, not give a shit, and I don't know, I love Rob Zombie's, like, his whole directing style, his aesthetic, it's so different.
Unique.
Yeah, and it's, okay, obviously, some of his movies are bad, but you like them because they're bad. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. I don't know. No, honestly, that's a very solid pick, and I would say, out of all the movies that we saw, that was probably, like, the one with the most memories tied to it, because you're right, we went to Frightmare in the Falls, met Bill Moseley, Dee Wallace, got an exclusive poster that they only gave to the first, I believe it was 50 people that they were giving out at this theater. So, and we actually got 2 of them. We ended up throwing one of them out, which I was sad about because I'm like, no man, we can freaking sell this shit.
We still have the one that's signed.
Yeah, like, the one we have signed
Framed.
is framed and better looking, but whatever. It's a very solid pick.
Mm-hmm. All right, Marlayna, what is your number 4?
All right, my number 4 pick of 2019 is Dr. Sleep.
Wow, only a number 4? I thought you would have it higher. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, like, kind of going off of the whole Stephen King thing, too. Earlier this year, I actually read Dr. Sleep. Well, I didn't read it. I listened to an audiobook. But, yeah, I don't know. I was just getting really, really into it. And if you guys know me, my favorite horror movie of all time is The Shining. So this is it picks up where The Shining left off, and it follows Danny Torrance through his life, and, you're introduced to new characters such as Aberstone, the True Knot, all those kinds of things. So just seeing that being brought to the big screen was really cool for me, and, what's his name? Ewan McGregor? Ewan McGregor, I thought did an amazing job portraying Danny Torrance. So, I don't know, I just, like, I can't even put into words, like, actually how much I like this movie. Obviously, there are some differences from the movie to the book, but for the most part, I would say it was pretty solid. And I don't know, it's just like a whole kind of, like, nostalgia thing for me, like, bringing back, like, elements from The Shining, especially when, Dan Torrance goes to, like, back to the Overlook. Now, I know I had some mixed opinions on it, but, if I do think about it from the bigger picture, I really do like it, because I love everything about the Overlook Hotel, like, all the different ghosts and characters in there. So seeing that, like, being really brought back was nice for me, and it was, like, cool, so... And it's like Stephen King, so yeah, it's great. Mm-hmm. And Stephen King was in it, so... Wait.
No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't. I was thinking of It. Okay, wow. Yeah, okay, that was my little spiel on it. Go ahead.
What?
Go ahead, you got anything?
Well, I don't want to say anything, because maybe I have it later on my list. Maybe I want to talk about it later on.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. But yeah, so that's your number 4?
That's my number 4.
You want to say anything else about it?
I loved it. It was a good movie.
All right. Okay, well, that's a good pick. Like I said, maybe I have that later on in my list. But right now, my number 4 for 2019 was Creepshow.
Really? Wow. Okay, did not think it was gonna be there. Okay, go ahead. I can't. You know what? We didn't share our list.
So it's a surprise to you.
Yes. But based on, like, how I know Connor,
let me put it to you this way, okay? Originally, it was much higher. There was other movies that, but I'll talk about later, that I stuck with me more and stuff like that. And the only other reason that it's a little bit lower, even still my number 4 thing of this year.
Yeah, it's pretty high.
Which is pretty high. But the only reason it's a little lower is because I loved it, but I thought not every episode was the same, like, high level of quality. Like, some were better than others. So it's like, I really, really loved some, but there was others that kind of brought it down overall for me. So, yeah. But, I mean, getting to what I liked about it, I mean, obviously it's still my number 4. And what I really loved about it is that it brought back Creepshow in a new way that I wasn't expecting. If somebody had told me, like 3 years ago, that there were going to be a new Creepshow TV show that was headed by Greg Nicotero, featured episodes based on works by Stephen King and Joe Hill, episodes directed by John Harrison, Tom Savini, Greg Nicotero, like, I would have been like, yeah, right, no way. But, I mean, it happened, and I think that it's an amazing feat for horror fans to see this.
And newer horror fans, too.
Well, exactly. I think a lot of people are, like, who have never seen Creepshow or Creepshow 2 will probably, because this was actually a really successful show, and they've already announced that they're going to do season 2. So, yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to bring, like I said, a lot of attention back to the original. And, I mean, as fans of the podcast will know, when we did our best horror movies of all time list earlier this year, the Creepshow from 1982, the original movie, is my favorite horror movie of all time.
See, and that's why I thought you were going to rate it a lot higher.
I mean,
but it's okay. It's okay. Your ratings are fine.
Okay.
Not going to judge you too much.
But yeah, I mean, I really loved all the practical effects in this, and I think it's like a really love letter to, like, the movies of the 80s and stuff. And if you have Greg Nicotero being the showrunner, I mean, I think you're going to have that, where that reverence and also that importance placed on things like special effects. There was obviously lots of like Easter eggs and stuff like that that we really like seeing. Just like seeing the creep back again,
like
I think is cool.
In a different kind of light.
Yeah, and and even just like visual nods back to the original movie, things like the lighting and
like the whole dualism with the lighting, the blue and red and stuff. Yeah,
the comic book kind of when it had the animation, I thought that was cool too.
Yeah.
So there was a lot I liked about it, and like I said, there was a lot of standout episodes to me. Like some of my favorite segments were, I really liked Bad Wolf Down, which was the werewolf one with Jeffrey Combs. I really, really loved that.
Jeffrey Combs is a Nazi, awesome.
I really liked The House of the Head. That was the second segment, sorry.
Yeah.
I really liked that one. I liked the last episode, both of the segments in the last episode, Skin Crawlers and By the Silver Waters of Lake Champlain, which is based on a Joe Hill story. So I mean, I think that, again, it was like, the only reason it's not higher is because there were some segments I didn't like as much, but there was a lot of segments I really loved. The Companion, the one with the Scarecrow, that was really good too. So, I mean, it's my number 4, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm very, very excited to see season 2. And just, the other thing that kind of brought it down as well is because you could tell that they had a very limited budget, and a lot of the episodes were much smaller, and I hope that because it was so successful, that they'll have a bigger budget next time around and then see what they do for season 2.
Yeah.
So, Creepshow was my number 4.
Cool.
And what is your number 3?
Well, my number 3 is Creepshow.
That's what I figured it would be.
I don't know. Going off of the stuff that you said, I thought it was really cool and like a new modern twist on something, that's like vintage and they did in the past. So I really like seeing things get revived, but well, because, you can really make or break something. Cough, cough. There's a few other movies that we're going to mention later that did that. So it's I don't know, it's nice. And having, familiar names being brought back, like Greg Nicotero, Tom Savini, obviously Stephen King. Those are really big people for us. So just seeing them do what they do best again is just really cool. And like, I don't know, just the originality of like the episodes. And my favorite episode was The Head. I loved that one so much. It was so good.
That was based on a story written by the guy who wrote the book Bird Box.
Like, actually?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Cool. I didn't know that. Yeah. I don't know, like episodes like that. I really like the one with, what was it, like the genie or something?
Oh, the man in the suitcase?
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. The werewolf one as well. Just because, like, certain elements in there are super, super campy. And, for some people, they're not really into that type of shit, but I really like it. I don't know, I'm very weird when it comes with horror because it's either I love really serious stuff or, like, completely cheesy, like, bullshit. So, I don't know, I wouldn't say Creepshow was bullshit, but some of the elements are just very, like, comedic and, like, over the top, right? Especially with the colors and, like, the animation, and I don't know, I just really, really liked it. I thought it was really great. And, as Connor mentioned, I'm really interested to see what the second season of Creepshow brings. Again, more Easter eggs. That's also something I really like looking for in horror, is just like certain like, nuggets of reference to other horror movies, and like Creepshow did that. So I'm really interested to see what other ones they're going to be having in the new season. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. That's my number 3 pick. We talked about it so much.
So my number 4 was Creepshow, and your number 3 was Creepshow.
Yeah.
And your number 4 was Dr. Sleep.
Yeah.
And my number 3 is Dr. Sleep.
Oh my god. That's funny.
So I placed Dr. Sleep at number 3 for me, and actually, for a while, I did have it actually reversed, where Dr. Sleep was number 4 and Creepshow was number 3. But the reason I put Dr. Sleep at number 3 is because I think that, for me, the movie was better than I ever expected it to be. I was really looking forward to this movie, and I was hoping it was going to be good, but I didn't think it was going to be as good as I thought it was. I thought it turned out to be, because here's the thing. I read the book a few years ago, about 2 years ago, and I liked the book. I didn't love the book. I was like, it's good, but it didn't really stand out to me too much. But the movie, I thought, actually takes the book and improves upon it in almost every single way. It cuts out things that don't really need to be there.
Yeah.
Because it's a movie and because it's referencing visually the language of the Shining movie that wasn't really referenced in the book, obviously, because the book is very much just a sequel to The Shining, the book, and doesn't really have anything to do with the Shining movie. I thought that Mike Flanagan, and we talked about this in our review, did the best job he could have done with taking, like, the book that's Doctor Sleep the book, that's a sequel to The Shining the book, but it's also
tying in
with the Kubrick Shining, and so this is also a sequel to The Shining the movie. So, and I think he takes it all and marries it so perfectly well that he does improve upon the book. Like, I think, like, if you think about, for example, the climax, and I think that's my favorite part of the movie, when they're in the Overlook.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have that in the book, Doctor Sleep, because obviously the Overlook was blown up, and not having it in the book kind of makes the climax less exciting. So he literally rewrites the climax to it for his movie and makes it much better, because he has the Overlook in there. He has these characters in the Overlook, so there's so much more emotional kind of resonance to the ending.
Well, yeah, and, like, you know, without getting too sappy here, like, I'm a huge fan of The Shining, so, like, when I saw that happen, like, them, like, I could just tell, like, the second they went into the boiler room, I was like, they're not going to, like, I don't know, but then, like, they did, and I was like, wow, I appreciate that. For somebody who is a huge Kubrick fan, but at the same time, my favorite book of all time is The Shining, the like, by Stephen King. So, like, you know, seeing whatever happened in Kubrick's movie, like, they didn't have that explosion, and, like, I don't know, when Mike Flanagan puts that, it's just I can't even talk about it, because I'm just like, yes, like, on all levels, yes.
Mm-hmm. Like, and for me, I think, like, again, like, the things that you're able to do by making the movie a sequel to the Kubrick Shining, like, you were able to have that scene, which is my favorite scene in the whole movie. We talked about this and also in the review. Mm-hmm. The scene where Danny goes to the bar and he's talking with the ghost of his dad. I thought that was one of the most resonating scenes that I've seen this year, and it was because he had to combine those different elements. So I think that it just really proves that Mike Flanagan is, like, a very, very good horror director, and he, you know, can kind of do anything. Because, I mean, really, he did two of the hardest adaptations of Stephen King's works you can do, because he did Gerald's Game, which is a movie entirely set with a woman on her bed, and made that good. Yeah. And then he did Doctor Sleep, which is such a challenge because you have to marry those two very different worlds of the Kubrick and the King, and, you know, he just does it very well. And I think, like, you know, just all the elements of that movie beyond just that, I mean, like, the acting is really good. I think Ewan McGregor makes it great Danny, and I talked about that in the review as well. I think just the visual language of the movie is very good, the way it's shot and lit and everything.
Well, yeah, because they were also trying to, you know, do shots and scenes and angles that were featured in Kubrick's version, which was kind of cool. So,
and I mean, just like the fact that, you know, he's also a very old school director, because he's not like he, like, does weird digital trickery. He, like, just recasts actors. Like, we think of, like, obviously the guy who played Jack, but also Wendy and wait, why am I blanking?
Wendy, Dick Halloran.
Dick Halloran, yeah, sorry. Yeah, and I think that it's really good. And I mean, even the villains of that movie are obviously really good. Like, the True Knot are villains that aren't just, like, evil for evil's sake. Like, they have a purpose and stuff, but they're still scary.
Yeah.
And you know, Rose the Hat was really good in it. I mean, all around, I just think it was a really, really well done movie, and I think I like it so much because it is better than I ever expected it would be.
Well, that's a solid pick.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay, so we're down to what, number 2?
Yep.
Okay, Marlayna, what is your second favorite horror movie of 2019?
My second favorite horror movie of 2019 is Ari Aster's Midsommar. I can tell by the look on your face. Did you see that coming?
Yes, I did, because, well, maybe it's probably just easier if we do it this way. Ari Aster's Midsommar is also my number 2 pick for 2019.
No way. You know what? I didn't think it was going to be on your top 5. Because we have very
I'll
different
explain. Why don't
tastes.
you go first, and then I'll explain mine.
Okay. To start off, I really like this movie just because it's directed by Ari Aster, and I believe when we did the best of... When did Hereditary?
The best of 2018? We both agreed Hereditary was
Yeah, exactly. So Ari Aster, he's up there. He wasn't my number 1 this year, for good reason, but he was my second place person, my runner-up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just love this movie, and the more and more I thought about it, it's just so different, and I really like that. Like, this guy took a serious jump with this movie, and for me, it was awesome. I know a lot of people didn't feel the same about this movie, but I just respect him for just taking such a large jump for this. Like, the movie in itself is very bright and colorful, and I think that is so cool because you associate, bright, colorful things with being happy and all that kind of stuff. So it's really cool how they kind of put a horror twist on that and, like, made it almost, like, eerie and uncanny and stuff like that. I really thought that was cool. Also, the acting of this movie, like, I can't remember her name, but the girl who, like, the main girl,
Florence Pugh.
Yeah, her acting is so good, especially when she's, like, having her, breakdowns and stuff like that. Like, the way she's crying, it's just like, oh my god, like, you feel something. And that really gets to me because that's what scares me, is, like, when you put that much emotion into something. Also, the music in the movie, just like Hereditary, very unsettling. It sticks with you. It makes you feel anxiety, is the same thing. It makes you feel anxious. I don't know, just even the gore in this movie, especially when the one scene where they're bashing the person's head in with a hammer, I was like, holy smokes, like, that is freaking gross. Like, I think I had to look away at one point, which never really happens for me because I'm pretty, desensitized to this kind of stuff because we watch way too much horror. Yeah, like, I could just really go on. Really, it's just combining all kinds of different elements in just a different kind of way. Really tying in, folklore and heritage and religion. I think just combining all those things is just it'll make a very powerful movie. And for me, it was a really good, powerful film. So, yeah, what do you have to say about it?
Okay, well, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
You said that you weren't expecting it to be in my top 5. Why?
I wasn't expecting it to be in your top 5 because me and you have very different tastes in movies. And I find you like more of the movies that are, like, kind of like horror or humorous and stuff like that.
Campy.
And yeah, it can't be. Like, when I think, well, because you said your favorite movie of all time is Creepshow.
A horror movie of all time.
Yeah, and it's like, it's very campy.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'm very, like, out there. Like, I like really weird shit, especially, like, trying to undercover something. Like, for instance, what was the movie that we watched not too long ago? Oh, it was called November, and this was more like a fantasy kind of movie, but I don't know, I was really interested in just learning more about, like, the folklore of it. So when I was doing that with, like, November, it kind of made me think of, like, Midsommar, and then, like, going back over it and learning more things. I love to learn about this. Like, I don't think Ari Aster really expects anybody to go into these kinds of movies knowing every little tidbit about Nordic folklore, Swedish folklore,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, like, so you're right. Like, I wasn't even expecting to put this movie on my top 5 when I was making the list, but because when we did a review of it and when we gave our review, I liked it. I really liked it, but I was a little bit more down on it than you. And I mean, I still, even though it is my number 2 for the year, I still don't like it as much as Hereditary. But so I was kind of like, ooh, I'm probably not going to be in top 5 and whatever. But the more and more when I was kind of looking at my list and kind of revising as we saw other movies or kind of not, and I was thinking back, well, what are some other movies I saw this year? The more and more I thought about it, like Midsommar did stick with me. It stuck with me in a way that very few movies did this year. Because I would find I would be just thinking about it, in my day to day sometimes, and I'd be like, oh, yeah, well, what about this thing in Midsommar? What about this thing? And I always say, my favorite horror movies and the ones that I always know are scary are the ones that stick with me and the ones that I think about days after. Obviously, it's not my favorite horror movie of all time, but the scariest horror movie, in my opinion, I've ever seen is the movie Ghost Watch, because I was disturbed by it and thinking about it for a week after I saw it, just constantly thinking about it.
Yeah.
And that's how much it disturbed me. And it is still my scariest movie I've ever seen. And this movie kind of had the same thing, where I was I wasn't sure about it when I first saw it, and that's why when we gave our initial first impressions review, I was a little bit more down on it. But the more and more I thought about it, I was like, that movie was incredibly effective and incredibly disturbing.
Yeah.
It was. It had that hereditary quality that I didn't even realize at first. That's how much it got underneath my skin, that I didn't realize how much I was disturbed by it until later. Because it is a little less in your face than Hereditary. Hereditary, I feel is disturbing in the moment.
Yeah.
Midsommar is disturbing in the afterthought of it. And, and I actively did seek out, well, what does this thing mean? What about this? Why did Ari Aster make this choice here or something like that? And when I learned more about it and stuff like that, I came to appreciate it a lot more. And I think that it is just telling that why he's such a great director, that he is able to do all these things that only make sense in the afterthought. And then we haven't even watched it again, which I still want to do, but upon repeat viewings, I feel you get more out of it, a lot more out of it.
Well, yeah, because you're less focused on the the primary aspects, and you're kind of looking at what's going on in the background, what are some things that didn't really
jump out.
Yeah, weren't in the forefront of it. Yeah, no, Connor, you're absolutely right in the sense that it is one of those movies that you do think about, and I think that is so cool and so sneaky in his way of directing, because it just sticks with you, and you don't want, maybe some people just don't want it to, but you can't escape it. And yeah, that's freaking cool. That's why I really respect Ari Aster.
Yeah, and me too, and because it is so different from Hereditary, and includes a little bit more humorous elements and things like that. But it's also the themes that it touches on are different, but almost spiritually connected to Hereditary. I mean, Hereditary is all about family. It's a movie about family. It's a movie about the breakdown of family and family struggles and relationships. And this one's more about, it's about
overcoming grief.
It's about overcoming grief, but it's about that. If Hereditary was about family, this one's about romantic relationships, and how you, if you're stuck in a bad relationship, how do you get out of it? How do you find what's a good relationship for you? What's a good place for you to be, people for you to be around, and and it's really a movie all about the worst breakup in history, and then the best kind of getting what you wanted all along. Because I mean, I think her name was Danny, right?
Yeah.
Danny obviously has this kind of broken relationship with her boyfriend who doesn't really want to be with her, and then she does choose for him to die in the end, but she gets this other community that's much better for her. And the idea of that, again, I never caught on with at first, but when I read about it afterwards, the idea of kind of shared emotional states, because that's all about what this community is all about. They have shared emotional states. That's why when somebody's hurt, they all are hurt. When somebody's happy, they're all happy. And when somebody feels grief, they all feel grief with her. So when there's that scene where she finds her boyfriend, having sex and that thing, and then she goes to cry, everybody cries with her, and that's the idea that she's never had that where people actually felt the same thing she felt.
Yeah.
It was always they were either putting on a front or just didn't connect with her, and then she finally found this community that did. And I think it's almost, if anything, the opposite of Hereditary, because Hereditary is all about having this group
People
around you that should
apart.
that should be like one solid group, but that's slowly pulled apart and just destroyed. And this is, she doesn't have anything at the beginning. Like, her family's destroyed in the first 5 minutes of the movie, but then she gets a new family.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, you can look at this movie in so many different lights and analyze it in so many different themes. But no, you ultimately are right that, like, the thing that she wants most is a sense of belonging, community, and understanding. And I think that is just so cool, and it's just portrayed in such an interesting way. And, like, it is a horror movie, but when you talk about it like this, it's like, yeah, this is a hearty, nice chick flick. You know, she got what she wanted. Yes, girl.
All it took was all her friends sacrificed to do it.
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was, hands down, fabulous movie.
So that was both of our number 2s for 2019.
Yep.
And I have a feeling we might both have the same number 1.
Okay.
So, Marlayna, what is your number 1 movie?
Okay, we do this thing. It's called the 3, 2, 1 thing. And basically we just count down and be like, 3, 2, 1, and we say whatever it is. So I feel like we should just go ahead and do that.
Okay, so number 1 horror movie of 2019.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. The Lighthouse.
Wow. High five. That was great.
2 years in a row we've had the same number 1.
Well, you know, great minds think alike. Yes. So, yeah, okay, wow.
Okay, Marlayna, why is The Lighthouse your number 1 horror movie of 2019?
Oh, my God. It's just so good on every possible level. I have so much respect for Robert Eggers, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so much respect for him for doing this movie. Oh my God, where do I begin? Holy smokes. Okay, let's start off with the aspect ratio. It's filmed in, I don't know the exact dimensions.
It's a
box, yeah, so it's a lot different than, you know, the normal ratios of movies when they're filmed. I think that is so cool, and it's so underestimatingly powerful. Like, you get the whole... Okay, I can't even talk. This is how excited I am. So, when you have a reduced ratio, you're going to feel more boxed in. And that's kind of the whole feeling if you were to be stranded on, like, a deserted island. Well, not deserted island, but like an...
isolated.
Isolated island with a lighthouse. You feel trapped. You feel boxed in. Much like the boxed ratio. Also, maybe you're not supposed to see everything that's going on. You know, maybe there's other things in the distance. Maybe the mermaid's swimming away or something. Maybe the boat's in the distance, but you can't see that as the viewer. So he's really putting a harness on you for what you can really see in this movie. He's restricting your vision, and I think just to even start off, that is just so cool. And I think, you know, I really respect him for taking that jump. Mm-hmm. So, okay, are we gonna bounce back? Because I could just go for half an hour on this.
So, one thing I want to talk about, because I was wanting to talk about this in this top 5 list, while we still kind of had Midsommar on the mind. When I look back at 2019, I think I'm going to look back at it as the year of The Lighthouse and Midsommar.
Yeah.
Because I think that these movies really do act as kind of opposite sister movies in a way, like reflective movies, like different sides of the same coin kind of movies. Because so obviously they're both made by A24, that studio. Mm-hmm. The directors are friends in real life, apparently.
Oh.
And then they're like kind of opposites of each other, because Midsommar is all about the colors and the wide openness of it, and the seeing everything all at once and needing to take it all in and being like, there's stuff happening in the background. And it's also a movie about a woman and how she deals with the men in her life and how she needs to become her own woman and kind of take her womanhood into her own possession. So if you think about all that stuff, The Lighthouse is almost like the complete opposite of it. It's kind of like the dark twin to it, because it's all about... It's black and white, so it's literally no colors.
Yeah.
It takes the very colorful Midsommar and takes all the color away from it. It's, instead of the wide open spaces, and the fact that all of Midsommar takes place in wide open fields and stuff like that, this is, as you said, boxed in with the aspect ratio, but also physically boxed in. They're either on the island or inside the very cramped lighthouse.
Yeah. And also a lot of the shots for that movie are very, very up close.
Up close, exactly.
So,
And obviously, whereas Midsommar was a movie, I feel like, about a woman and about a woman finding her strength, The Lighthouse is a movie about men and about masculinity, and it's about the kind of the
Insanity.
relationship between two men and kind of how they clash and stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's how I'm going to remember this year. And that's why I think that's very unique that these are 1 and 2 movies, right?
Yeah.
Because it is going to be like, oh, that's the year of Midsommar and The Lighthouse. And remember how different they were?
Yeah, but you're right. They are very similar if you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I also really like this movie because of the score. I thought the score for The Lighthouse was out of this world. I don't know. It was great. It brought such a ambiance to this movie. It really set the scene. It's just so iconic for me, and like this is actually something I was thinking about like getting the CD for, and like CD, Jesus Christ, I'm a boomer. Downloading it on iTunes and just listening to it in my car. I don't know. I thought it was really good. I thought it was very off-putting and stuff.
And I mean, for me, I think like one thing we look at a lot about in these movies is, and obviously it is about the directing and everything, but this is one movie where I don't think you can talk about this movie without talking about the acting.
Oh,
and I think that's
God.
what makes it. I mean, Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, I think they both make those characters so unique and so distinct.
And so disturbing, too.
And so disturbing that they're both unique individuals that you want to watch, but at the same time, it's all about the relationship between the two.
Exactly.
And how they kind of interconnect and also clash and kind of bounce off each other.
Yeah.
And I think they're both really, really good at kind of taking what makes their characters unique, but also almost like, you almost feel like, I mean, one thing I was thinking about when I saw that movie is almost like, is this some sort of thing where it's like, almost like these two are the same person in a way?
Yeah.
And maybe it's like, Robert Pattinson is him as a young man, and then he'll kind of grow up to become Willem Dafoe.
Well, that's the thing. Like, again, you can view that movie in that light. I love these movies that you can just, like, it's what you choose it to be. Like, what's important to you is what's going to really shine through in this movie. And if that's, like, the fear of growing up and seeing what you're going to become, like, that's just, like, really powerful. So, yeah, no, that's an excellent point.
And I mean, for me, I think what also I really like about this movie is it is about the masculinity of it and about the kind of like, what does manhood mean? And I mean, I think Robert Eggers described this movie as like, this is a movie all about what happens when you take 2 men and trap them in a giant penis. Because that's what The Lighthouse is. I mean, it's a giant dick.
Also, that's one thing about this movie. The amount of symbolism, oh my God, is like out of this world. And yeah, to start off, the fucking lighthouse is a giant wiener. But also, like, there's a lot of symbolism to, like, folklore and mythology. Like, Poseidon, the mermaid can be viewed as, like, a siren and stuff like that.
Well, it's about the invading kind of femininity and about, like, what happens when you put, like, a woman in that situation. Well, she literally just becomes a vagina. That's why, like, there's that shot where it's literally just, like, a vagina. Because that's all it becomes. Because when you take these 2 men, you trap them together, then anything that resembles, like, anything vaginal is just, like, they become fixated on it.
Right? That's why he's so in love with that fucking sculpture. It's like, this is it. Like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, like, for me, it's just, like, the fact that we got a movie in 2019 that had this aspect ratio, that was filmed in black and white, that was on the big screen, that we could go see in theaters, I think was so unique. It's so ballsy that he did that, and it paid off because, I mean, I don't know how well it did commercially. I mean, this is not a movie a lot of people are going to want to see, but critically it's done really, really well, and I mean, it was my favorite movie of this year for sure. And another thing I really, really liked about it that I think has become kind of Robert Eggers' trademark, and that he's obviously going to continue on, he said, is that not only does he present you with the story, and the story is affecting and stuff, and the characters are, but he also makes it in this certain time period, and puts it in this certain world. I mean, he did the exact same thing with The Witch. The Witch was very authentic to that kind of New England, Salem Witch Trials period, between the costuming, the language, how they speak, the props and the setting around them, and The Lighthouse is the exact same way. And I mean, you feel that you're like you're in that lighthouse because of the fact that you're sucked in by the language, because you're sucked in by the costuming and the setting and stuff. And like what I think the reason I would almost say the lighthouse takes it one step further than the witch is you also feel it because the nature and the environment is such a part of the lighthouse. I mean, you feel like it's like the cold and the wind and the rain and it's lashing on the lighthouse, and you feel that.
Yeah.
And just the fact that it's dark and it's dank, and like I've heard him in an interview, it wasn't all natural lighting, but you feel like the only lighting is coming from the candles on the wall or on the table.
Well, yeah, and it makes you as a viewer like really like hardcore looking to see what's going on, because you can't, like, if it's being filmed in natural lighting or lighting by
it's like he said
candles.
He said it was pretty much almost all natural lighting, but there was some parts where they had to bring in some actual.
Well, yeah, but still, like, I have mad respect for that, and I think that just it makes the movie look more realistic.
Yeah,
and
shot on film.
Yeah, I think that's what they were going for in this movie.
It feels very old school, and I mean, and it doesn't like. I feel like some other filmmakers, and there's nothing wrong with this because it still can be cool, but some other filmmakers, they like to make their movie look like a certain style or a certain time period. Like Rob Zombie, a lot of his movies look like they could be in the 70s. Mm-hmm. But The Lighthouse, because of the fact that it's on film and has this aspect ratio and isn't black and white, if you were to watch Nosferatu from 1920 and then watch The Lighthouse, you'd be like, oh yeah, this movie was made, like 10 years after that?
Yeah.
Like, it was made around the same time,
and
right?
that's really cool. I definitely think for, people who are more into horror movies, like, they appreciate that stuff. And, not having all these special effects jump in your face and all these vivid colors and colorful language and stuff like that, like, bringing you back to the root of it, I think is really cool. Mm-hmm. So. And
it also makes it more human because you connect with these characters more and you understand their troubles more.
That's true. And also in this movie, like, for the longest time, like, I didn't know who was, like, the bad guy. I was like, are they both crazy? Like, it seems like they both could be crazy. Like, is the seagull the protagonist of this movie? I don't know.
And the thing I really liked about it is that it is disturbing. I mean, it is scary. Like, it's a different kind of scary because it's not just the psychological, are they going crazy or not, that kind of thing, but it's also almost like because the way he described it in an interview I listened to with him, he described it as like, if it fit in any genre, he would describe it as a weird tale, and that's kind of like a genre that was invented by H.P. Lovecraft, and it's all about like the idea of horror as something that's like beyond human comprehension, and that's why it's all about like the lighthouse, like the thing itself that Willem Dafoe is obsessed with, that Robert Pattinson sees at the end, is undescribable. He's not going to give you the answer as to what it is
because really. You yourself can't.
But because the characters, like it's just like this almost godlike thing that it represents, and it's whatever it needs to be to the viewer, And I think that idea is very scary. That there is just like out there in the world, some dark part of the world where these things can exist, and they're beyond human comprehension. They're so terrible, they're so awful that they're just like madness incarnate, and that's what causes these two men to kind of, go crazy.
And plus, like, when you don't give, all the viewers, like, when you don't give viewers every answer, that's actually more effective and more scary, because everybody has their own set of fears and what is the scariest thing for them. So, for one person, it could be like, oh my god, the lighthouse is just like fucking like Satan or something, and then that's scary. Or like, oh, the lighthouse is some, heaven divine creature, and I just can't even comprehend that. So it's like, when you leave that decision of what the lighthouse actually is to the viewer, they themselves create the scariest thing possible, and that will stick with them, and that will stay. So I don't know. I just think that one of the most effective scenes of that movie for me was the very end, and it was just so frightening. It's like when he's looking in the lighthouse, or into the light in the lighthouse, and you see him just like screaming, and the audio is distorted. I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, what's going on? Like, this is scary. And then at the end you see like, his eyes like basically popping out of his head. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's just, this movie is definitely something I would like to watch again and again. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was our...
That's our top 5
of 2019.
So, wow.
Very good picks. Do you want to recap?
Sure.
Quickly,
yeah, I think we've been talking for so long. Everybody's like, what were their movies?
So, do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
I
mean, our lists are actually fairly identical.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, so my 5 were, number 5 was 3 from Hell. Number 4 was Creepshow.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 was Doctor Sleep. Number 2 was Midsommar. And number 1 was The Lighthouse.
Wow. Okay, before I tell you mine, when I was talking to Connor of, like, how we're going to do this episode, I was like, are we going to do any, like, honorable mentions and shit like that? And he's like, no, Marlayna, we're just going to do our 5 picks. And I'm like, okay. You know what? We would have had the exact same list if it hadn't, like, if I hadn't have put in Castle Rock, because my next one, my runner-up, was 3 from Hell. For all the same reasons that you said.
Mm-hmm.
So... yeah, I just hope you know that. We're very much alike. As much as you like to think we're very different, we are the same buddy. So my 5 picks for 2019 were, number 5 was Castle Rock. Number 4 was Doctor Sleep. Number 3 was Creepshow, the Creepshow TV show. Number 2 was Midsommar, and number 1 was The Lighthouse.
So we have the exact same 1 and 2. Our 3 and 4 are the exact same, just flipped.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Alrighty, well, yeah, good year.
Yeah.
I think some very strong movies, some movies that we got to rewatch for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Gotta get those on Blu-ray steel case.
Yeah. Marlayna, do you want to... Oh, yeah, didn't you want to say
we briefly wanted to say, like, what were the shittiest movies we saw. Like, obviously, in no particular order. I think we're just going to spew out movies and kind of...
Well, I have 2. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go.
Okay, I have 2. And these are not the shittiest movies of the year. These were the movies I was most disappointed by.
Okay.
Actually, I have 3.
Okay.
Let me put 2... Okay, I'm going to say 2 first, and then I'll say my third. So, the 2 movies I was most disappointed by this year were... Pet Sematary and It Chapter 2.
Okay.
I was very disappointed by these movies because I was expecting a lot of them. I was hoping a lot. Pet Sematary, I mean, I love the original. The Pet Sematary book is my favorite Stephen King book. Mm-hmm. I thought they screwed it up by making Ellie the zombie child. I thought the ending was so bad I was laughing in the theater at it. I was like, wow, this is awful. They did a terrible job.
Yep.
Yeah, it was just bad all around, and it was a much, much worse film than the original. And then It Chapter 2, I liked that movie. It's just that I was expecting so much of it because I loved the original. The original was my favorite movie of 2017.
Yeah.
And I thought that they really dropped the ball in a lot of places. And it's going to be a movie that I look back on and be like, oh yeah, It, starring Bill Skarsgård. Like, I love that first movie, but the second movie really disappointed me.
Yeah.
So...
Well, I have to give it to you with those choices as well, basically for the same reasons. Like, I swear to God, we are the same person. We think alike. Fucking Pet Sematary was just a disaster altogether. I think they totally missed the point of the book. The whole point of the book was Ellie kind of having an existential crisis of, like, what is life and death and all this stuff, and... They just missed that. And by killing off Ellie and making her into a zombie, it just, like, Gage is so young that he can't process what it is.
It's a bigger impact when it's the baby.
Exactly. And, like, it was just so stupid. Like, I can't even. I just don't like it in every way. I was so disappointed. I had high expectations for this movie, and they were destroyed about 3/4 of the way, or maybe a third through it. Mm-hmm. It Chapter 2. Okay, it wasn't a bad movie, but like Connor said, it really didn't meet the mark as the first one. And I think this was the exact same case with the 1990s miniseries, and also with the book, because we, being adults, really like things that remind us of our childhood. And, it brings you back to a simpler time. Like, everything's just more interesting. You know, what do kids find scary? Like, how they talk to each other because it's funny. And I think with the first it was more effective just because, like of all those things, like, you got to basically be a part of the losers group as a child. And I think that was really the whole point of it. But when you get older and everybody's dispersing, everybody goes their own ways and has their adult problems, it's less interesting. Being an adult sucks. So I think that's why the movie wasn't as good. And, you know, it really wasn't as scary for me.
Well,
so.
it's also kind of funny because with it, like, just from a story standpoint, pretty much everybody agrees. I mean, I would say not everybody, but the majority of Stephen King fans agree that in the book, the better part of the book is the kid's storyline.
Yep.
In the 1990 miniseries of Tim Curry, everyone says, well, the kid's storyline is a lot better than the adult's part.
Yep.
And I would say it's going to be the same thing when we look back at these movies. The 2017 movie was a lot better than the 2019 movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another one that I wanted to throw out as one that I was very, very disappointed by, and this is another one that I didn't like. You liked it, I didn't.
I know what you're going to say.
I did not like Child's Play. Because here's the thing, you haven't even seen all the Child's Play movies.
I know.
You've only seen the first one. But for me, I've seen them all, and I'm a big fan of those movies. And those movies are actually still going on. Like the original, like literally the same storyline. Like Brad Dourif starring Chucky. Like, there's going to be a TV series. It's going to pick up from where the last movie left off directly because it leaves off on a cliffhanger. And it kind of like, the last two movies really connect this series in this whole big way that is kind of like this big storyline that's been going on for years.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie kind of takes that, throws it in the trash, and does this new thing that I think is way less effective. Like, I think it's just way less scary when it's just an evil robot versus, like, what is... I just find the idea and the concept of the original Child's Play so much more disturbing, that it is this, like, serial killer that puts his soul inside of a doll, and then that doll basically becomes, like, this young boy's kind of... his partner, his best friend, as they say.
Mm.
And, like, I mean, if you think about the idea that, you know, Chucky's in the same bed as Andy in the first movie, and, like, that it is this, like, serial killer, you know, that is so disturbing. Like, to me, the idea that it's just a robot is not as scary. It's just not as effective to me. I just really, really think this movie, A, did a bad thing by throwing out all those movies and throwing them in the trash, and then the new thing that they come up with is even then not very good.
I know. Yeah. Well... Okay, now when you talk about it like this, it really makes me reevaluate if I thought this movie was good. I liked this movie simply because it was funny, and just because it did, like, I don't know, something different. But now when I think of it, crazy robot kills people. Been there, done that. I've seen the Terminator movies. So... yeah, I have to give it to you for that. I don't know. I just liked it because, like, I thought the new Chucky was actually very creepy.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it is a scary thought to think about your technology and stuff turning against you. You know, because being in 2019, we are so reliant on technology and the things around us. Like, these are the things that we use every day, multiple times a day, to do even the simplest of tasks. So just thinking if they were to turn on you and put your life or someone else's life at risk is actually very unsettling. But I do have to give it to you in the sense that, you know, they did take a very unique idea for, you know, having the serial killer do some weird voodoo, put his soul into the doll. That is unique. AI that goes unhinged is not. So, yeah, I would have to agree with you in that one. But... yeah. I don't know.
And those were the ones that, for me,
really stood out. Yeah, basically any of the adaptations, just... and that's why I said it in the beginning, because I knew we were going to talk about
except for
shit.
Dr. Sleep and Creepshow. Those are adaptations.
Because they're directed by good fucking people. That's the thing. Like, obviously we saw a whole bunch of movies that were, like, kind of, like, B-rated, but even them were pretty good. Like, we saw, what was it, like, with Kylo Ren and Bill Murray.
The Dead Don't Die.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously it didn't make our list, but it was good. I don't know. We had a huge list. I can't remember half the shit on it, but...
Well, there's a lot of standout movies from this year.
Yeah.
Like, Us came out this year as well.
Yeah, it wasn't as good as Get Out, so...
There's a few movies I saw. Like, I saw Ready or Not. I really, really liked that one.
Mm-hmm.
That probably, if it was a top 10 list, that probably would be on my top 10 list. Crawl, I think we both really liked that one.
Yeah, Crawl. Okay, that was... I wouldn't say, like, getting close to my top 5, but it would have been a runner-up for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I really, really liked its concept. I thought it was different. Again, I like all these movies that are different. I feel like, you know, nowadays, or in the past, the recent past, like, you just have too many movies that are the exact same fucking thing. So when you do something different, like having these alligators that are, like, you know, eating people and causing havoc to Florida, right? Yeah, it's just cool. And, yeah, I like that.
One that I actually really enjoyed that you didn't enjoy, I really enjoyed Annabelle Comes Home.
Oh.
I thought that movie was so fun.
No.
I thought that movie was so good. It knew what it was trying to do, and just like the idea of kind of like the monster museum, I love that idea, and it really, really was good. I really like that movie.
No, for somebody who's a huge fan of, like, the Conjuring universe, it's fucking awful. We saw this movie at a drive-in, and I think we saw, what was it, like Jurassic Park or something?
No.
Or Jurassic World?
No. It was the Elton John movie.
Yeah, fucking Elton John's Rocket Man. Well, okay, it's a good movie, hands down. You should go see it. But was so much better than Annabelle. Like, I remember, I was like, yeah, like, we should go fucking see Elton John. And then you were just talking about Annabelle. I'm like, bitch, I don't care. Yeah, I don't know. The movie was just kind of for me. So, and I was actually excited to see that movie. So I don't know what happened there.
Okay, let me ask you a question, Marlayna. What was your favorite non-horror movie of 2019?
Oh my god, I don't know. Star Wars.
You haven't seen it yet.
All of them.
Those
all the Star Wars movies are all my favorite movies.
No, favorite non-horror movie of
Harry
2019.
Potter.
Of 2019.
I don't know what we saw. What did we see? We saw way too many things.
Non-horror movie.
No.
Of 2019.
Oh, the one we just saw. Oh my god, Knives Out.
That was your favorite?
That was good. I really liked that. That reminded me of the Murder on the Orient Express. Very good, like, murder comedy kind of thing. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Mine would be a tie or very close between a movie I just saw, The Irishman, which I thought was very emotional and very affecting, and just a very, very good movie. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Ooh, shit. Yeah, that one was good too. We liked it so much that we downloaded the soundtrack and we still listen to it. Yeah, I don't know. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Knives Out were solid picks. So. Wow,
Alrighty.
I think we could just, like,
Yeah.
This is literally us just rambling on about all the movies we like. Oh, Marlayna, did you like this part? Blah, blah, blah. So, I think we're going to wrap this up.
Yes, but I was going to say, before we go, did you want to give a little tease what we might be doing next on the podcast?
Oh, yeah. Well, you go for it.
Okay, so today you've just listened to our top 5 favorite movies of 2019, because it's the end of the year. We always do that at the end of the year.
Well, we're approaching the end of the year.
I mean, it's pretty much the end of the year.
It's
There's like 2 weeks left.
Mid-December.
Mid-December. Midsummer. Anyway, so it's the end of the year. But it's not just the end of the year. It is also the end of the decade. So what we're probably going to do next on the podcast is sometime in January, I think, or maybe late December, we are going to do a kind of horror
decade in review.
We're going to kind of give our favorite movies of the decade, kind of review what kind of stood out to us this decade, what was kind of, if when we're going to look back on it, what was this decade defined by in horror.
Yeah. I'm really excited to do that. Again, we still have to figure out exactly how we're going to do that, if we're going to have, like, a top 10 or maybe, like, by category.
Well, I'd like to do a top, or at least our 5 favorite movies of the 2010s, but also just kind of give an overall review of it.
Yeah.
An overview.
And just see, like, how it's changed from other decades and stuff like that. New things they've introduced or taken away.
What are the big trends?
Yeah, trends. Yeah. So we hope you guys are going to stick around for that kind of stuff. we're really excited to do it. We love talking to you
can tell.
about horror. So yeah.
All right, Marlayna, where can they find us?
Oh God, everywhere. You can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube, all under the sick, spoopy handle, Spook Notes. And if you have any comments, and hopefully no concerns, you can shoot us up an email at spooknotes@gmail.com.
You can also suggest future episodes.
Exactly. As always, guys, I always like hearing from you because I don't like talking to Connor very much aside from on this podcast. So please, please give me your time and attention and speak to me and let me know what you think. And let us both know what you think. Let anybody know what you think. You know, this is 2019. You can say or be or do anything you want to do within reason. But yeah. So yeah, with all that in mind, we're gonna end this shit.
I hope you guys had a good year.
Yeah.
Well, you can always email us and tell us what your favorite movies of the year were.
That's right. Just email us. Tell us all your favorite things about everything. Give us a recipe or two to try. I don't know, anything. So yeah, as always, don't forget to cite the spook. No, okay, we're gonna try that again. Okay.
We're leaving you here, and as always, don't forget to cite the
spook notes. Don't forget to cite the spook notes. Bye.